I just wanted to pick up on generalists that you were discussing, Bo, and starting with the why. I just want us to think about when we're looking at the IP professionals of today who are in organizations. I'm going to ask this to both you, Bo, and Nigel. What's your experience? Are we seeing T-shaped people? Are we seeing this sort of generalist, bigger picture thinking? And are we seeing people asking the why?
Yeah, well, I definitely spend a lot of time with heads of intellectual property and patents in large organizations and growing organizations, and they're definitely changing. Some of the teams we're talking to, it's up to 50% of the people working in the teams are non-patent people. They're either engineers, that's typically where you foster some of the great creative minds to work in patent teams. There are economists in organizations like Google and Facebook. There are data scientists. And also the listeners are very different. The CTO isn't now a sort of piggy bank that you can shake and get money to go and fund epic amounts of patenting without answering the why, because you're competing for resources. So there's a great article which Facebook inspired us to collaborate with called Return on Investment of Patents. And that ROI calculation is a business metric. I think you'll see a lot more of that happening. So certainly from an IP perspective, looking at the IP teams, they definitely are more T-shaped people. I really like that expression, Bo. There are more of those types of people inside the organizations, and I think the organizations are more strategic for it.
I agree with Nigel. I think it's expanding, and it's interesting because the companies are different as well. You know, we have that statistic that we roll out in IP all the time about in 1970, the S&P was mostly tangible assets, and now it's mostly intangible. Of course, intangible assets are all over the firm, so people are managing it in whatever they do. What we want to argue is how explicitly are you managing it, and how much value can you create if you more explicitly manage these aspects. And when you start to think like that, you start to see lots of possibilities. These new digital companies, you know, like the Facebooks and the Googles, they look at intellectual property in a broad way and see lots of different things. So they see the need for economists. You know, this is a policy issue. Now on the government level, it's even geopolitical. So when you start to see the importance, the why, or what do we want to achieve, then you start to see, okay, we need to ask some more questions.